half an hour ago. The Axiodex website is up now, right?
Yeah, it's up and live. It's axiodex.com. People can visit it and start checking it out. And a little secret is that if you click the app button, you can actually see our DApp that we're developing that's in progress. It's currently launched on a test net, so um, if you want to test it, you can contact me, and I can give you some Ethereum on the test net. Yeah, but it's up. We still have some development to go, but you can, it's about. I was testing it the other day, and I would say about 90% or more of the functionality is there. We just, are still cleaning things up and making it tight, making it easy to use. But just a little Easter egg while you guys are while we're waiting for everything to start, right? So if you click on the DApp, you can start actually browsing it.
Oh, that's awesome. You also for the people that are on the testnet are also collecting some data along. Basically, are you letting the people test it and collecting information out of it, or is just like a play around for the people?
Yeah, it's actually ready to be tested. So if somebody finds a bug or something like that, they can come out and tell us. There is some functionality that isn't working yet, which we're aware of, but it's if people want to play around with it and let us know that they found a shortcoming or a bug, then that'd be highly appreciated.
Awesome. I'm just are you around that header or he is?
Yes, give me one more minute. I'll be with you.
Okay, perfect. Then I get 1 more minute with Patrick. Awesome.
Fair enough. So, David, how long have the pillars? That's a pretty good. They're not pretty good. You have an awesome community built up and everything. How did you get the idea for the pillars?
For the name or the community itself?
Just for the community itself. Like, what's the driving nature behind it all?
I mean, in the beginning, it started as us being just a couple of from a certain project that probably everyone knows, a couple of disgruntled investors, where we were not able to talk freely, communicate freely, and so we said like, okay, let's just create our own server. Let's just have a space where we could talk to everyone about everything, and as long as it's respectful and objective, and whatever people put up as arguments are also somewhat backed and not just spewing hate and all of that, everything is allowed. And yeah, and then we realized we could also try to put this style to the CEs as well, to the community engagement events, and see how the projects take it. And they seem to like it, apparently. But yeah, no, it's been already going for over a year, and it's been a fun journey so far. And I hope it's going to be even longer journey. And yeah, we got also some very exciting stuff that we are currently building on, and that's going to be the first thing is going to be announced on Friday. Very exciting stuff. Oh no, it's not Friday. Tomorrow, on Thursday, some very very exciting news that we are super thrilled to throw out to the community. And yeah, I think it's a good time to be a member of the pillars, that's, if I can say it that way. And definitely keep your eyes and ears peeled to see what's going to come in the next few weeks. But yeah, but as I said, basically it's we got to know each other in a project. We're just chatting around and got to know each other. And now I'm stuck with Mad Hatter and Voodoo, and I can't get rid of them.
I'm good to go.
Okay, awesome. Alrighty. Let me see if all the bots are in there. Alrighty, perfect. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Welcome to the Pillars. We are a community led space aimed at supporting protocols and educating our investors through intelligent, meaningful conversations. Here we ask the tough questions you all want answered. Um, Now, let me introduce to you our guest for today, Patrick P. From Axiodex. Welcome to the Pillars. Uh, we're happy to have you here today. Um, Axiodex, for a quick introduction, first of all, is the first project on Base that we interviewed today. And in its most basic form is Axiodex is going to be a trading platform um, that has very interesting staking mechanisms around it, exposure to liquidity provisions, and of course, leverage trading up to 50 times of the investment. And yeah, I think it's best for me to just pass it on to Matt Hatter and Patrick because there's a lot of stuff to get into. I also want to point out that we have a $75 giveaway with Axiodex. For that, every member that is listening currently has to be a part of that server. And also have asked a question, and then we're going to randomly draw that. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoys. The community questions channel is, of course, open. Please just ask away. And yeah, I'm going to pass the microphone on to Matt Hatter now, and I'm going to step down to the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Patrick, nice to connect with you. Glad to have you on stage. And even better to hear that you were allowed out of the basement for a little bit to see some sunshine.
Thank you very much. I enjoy getting out.
I'm sure. As David said, there's a lot to get into. There's a ton of things that you guys are doing, trying to build out. A lot of promises being made. A lot of things you're excited, I'm sure, about telling us. Shall we start with a little bit of a background on yourself? You know, what got you into crypto? What got you to this stage, and why you decided to build something like Axiodex?
Certainly. So myself, I got a degree in computer science a long time ago. And I was a software developer for many years. And then I got into more of the sales and project leadership. Um, and I did that for about 20 years or so. And it's project leadership and sales and large enterprise IT solutions. So I've worked with a company in the past that you all know. And if you don't, I'd be surprised. It starts with M, and it's a big name in the computer industry, but I'll just leave it at that. Um, so with respect to crypto, the what really got me into crypto was the whole idea of decentralized finance and the notion that at the end of the day, it really provides opportunities for the little guys, for the middle class, to be able to start, building generational wealth or passive income, or just with the ability to make money off of larger markets or markets that some people may not actually have access to. I just find that it's, in the real world of finance, you have to kind of be in the game to get there, or else the it's just the cards are stacked against you. And
Hmm.
what really brought me to decentralized finance and to crypto is kind of that belief that what you're doing is opening up something to the world stage. You're not restricted by a particular country, and there's just great opportunity for the average Joe to be able to make quite a bit of money. And making money is one of the reasons we're probably all here, right? In some way or
Right.
another. Yeah. But hopefully that's a good intro in terms of myself. I should mention that at the end of the day, I'm a dad. I have 3 kids, 12-year-old twins and a 16-year-old boy. And between crypto and in real life activities and jobs and so forth, my kids get all the remaining attention.
Right. Great. Thank you. So when you are allowed to go out into the sun, it's predominantly to watch them play around for a little bit, and then it's back into the basement.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'm out buying something for them.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting the perspective on there being a lot of opportunity. I suppose it was certainly in the very early days seen as this great opportunity where people could earn money, and now people are getting, especially within the DeFi space, this particular realm that we're operating, you're building in. It's one of those things where people are getting a bit apathetic and they're a bit concerned that is there um, really that opportunity to earn money? Are projects able to deliver on what they're promising? Are there projects out there that are building with the investor in mind and not just kind of keep your money within their ecosystem and ensure that the people who are building out and sitting at the top are the ones that benefit? So talk to me a little bit about Axiodex and why you believe you're going to break that mold.
So that's a great question. Um, so, at the end of the day, when we're building here, what we're building here is an overall community that we want to. Uh, Let me refocus that.
Sure.
We believe that how we're going to be successful is by building a community that wants to learn and to educate that community across the many different ways which we can particularly make money with Axiodex. And I'll get into that a little bit later.
Hmm.
But um, a direct example of how we're not just keeping the money in the system. We have uh, a revenue sharing construct that provides ether to the holder. Whenever they log in, they can claim that ether, but that's based off of service fees off of our various utilities. We have a mixer, a bridge, as well as the leverage trading platform. So from um, all of the from the mixer, the bridge, and the leverage trading, we collect service fees, and those service fees are put out in ether. So it's
Right.
not something that we're keeping within the system, right? It's at the end of the day, it's for the holders. So
Hmm.
the other thing is that when you think about leverage trading, that's the uh, panacea, if you will, in terms of how the large investment houses make money. It's leverage trading, it's shorting. They are very big on it, and it kind of makes the world turn. Like the movie The Big Short, if you're familiar with it, that's just a big leverage trading story that somebody made a big bet on shorting the entire
I am.
mortgage industry. Yeah, and it paid off for them handsomely. So you know we believe that by providing that leverage trading is also can be called perpetual contracts or a perpetual dex, and I just seem to put everything that we're building into and calling it a perpetual dex. So I'll use that terminology. But the perpetual dex or our leverage trading platform, what we're really doing
Hmm.
is allowing people to slowly step into it in the terms of if you just buy the Axiodex token and then start learning how to invest into liquidity pools and then slowly start to learn how to do leverage trading, we believe that we can take that the everyday person and educate them to leverage trading to the point where they're going to be able to be very efficient in that and open up that opportunity for people to make money, regardless if the market is going up or down.
Right, great. And we're going to talk about the education part because I think education, I mean, that's one of the pillars of our community here is making sure that we have tons of education for people. And that's what essentially these conversations are meant to be about is educating the seasoned and everyday investors. And so we'll definitely dive into that. Um, Talk to me a bit about Axiodex. How does it work then? There's going to be some people that are going to have, critical thoughts on how some of it might be set up. I know you've got taxes with the AXN token, and there's going to be people that might be looking at that with raised eyebrows, wondering if perhaps we'd moved past taxing of tokens. Explain that system to me and explain why you have everything that you do in place.
Certainly, I have a pretty much long answer for you, but I also
Okay.
have some slides that I can share. So
Sure.
I'm going to share.
Do both.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to share my screen, so you should be able to see that up there. It's just the Axiodex intro logo. And what I'm going to do is use that to answer the question with respect to what is Axiodex. And Matt Hatter, I can talk forever. So if there's a question that you see, please interrupt me, because I would rather that we're here for the education of everybody rather than me finishing talking, right? So don't hesitate to interrupt me, please.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. So I'll go through a brief introduction in terms of what Axiodex is, and and then talk about our token ecosystem. So Axiodex is a perpetual DEX, otherwise known as a leverage trading platform. And as we talked about, we're big on education. So one of the first things that a holder would really need to do is understand the kind of token ecosystem. And the reason why is because it was built up as a what we've done is we forked GMX, and GMX is a easily a top 100 cryptocurrency. If not, it has been in the top 5 in terms of volume in the past. So really, what we've done is fork GMX. We're going to launch it on Base, which is there is no current perpetual trading or perpetual DEX on Base at the moment. So we see that as an advantage. Um, and so the concept of how the tokenomics work is built off of what GMX has done.
Patrick, can I stop you for 2 seconds? Because
Yeah.
I don't know if this is happening for everybody, and I want to ensure that everybody can hear us.
Sorry, am I cutting in and out, or? Hold on one second. Is that any better? Can you hear me okay?
I think Matt Hatter has to quickly reset. Restart his Discord. I believe he's bugging out. So I'm gonna be here with you for a second while he fixes that up.
Okay, fair enough.
But if you want to, you can already go into what you were about to go to.
Certainly. So what I've shown now is just talking about our base token. That it's our base token. It's going to be used for governance and just regular trading. And this is the base token that we can stake. And there's a 5% buy and sell tax, which applies to the AXN token.
Mm-hmm.
So now you had a question about buy and sell tax. Should we have a quick conversation about that now? Because I would be happy to talk about it.
Sure. If you wanna cover what that buy and sell tax goes to and what it covers, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, certainly. So the 5% buy and sell tax. One of the reasons why we wanted to do this is first of all to ensure longevity of the token, but we wanted to provide an incentive for people to hold, and an incentive that goes above and beyond the GMX architecture which we forked. So 50% of the buy sell tax is going to be reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And I use the term going to be on purpose, because for the initial couple of weeks, that 50% of the buy sell tax is going to be used to grow our liquidity base, because we're going to need liquidity for people to do the leverage trading, and we have to establish quite a bit of liquidity. So 50%, we're going to use that initially for to build liquidity, but once we've reached a comfortable step, then that's going to turn into 50% reflection. The Now, by design, 30% of the buy and sell tax goes directly to the liquidity protocols. And that's something that is going to stay, so we can continue to build out liquidity. Now, that 50% plus that 30%, when I do math, that equals about 80%. In the future, we're going to move everything so that 80% is reflection, that it's going to be distributed to the holders accordingly, proportionately.
Okay,
A-
great.
And the
Sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Apologies. I'll interject for a second. Apologies for jumping off there. My Discord was having issues with me. We had a disagreement, so I left it for a second and came back, and we're fine now.
Okay, thank you. Um, the so at the end of the this is where I was. 20% of the taxes are going to go towards marketing, and if we can, some of that money might be going to the team. It's something that we're going to look at on a daily basis, or not on a daily basis, but weekly, in terms of what we can do. But
Hmm.
marketing is going to be really important. It's something that everybody talks about, but within that 20% fee is also how we're going to use that to build out education. So when I say marketing, I mean our education as well. And with the with I'd say the technical involvement, which is involved with doing leverage trading, and the amount of information that you need to consider and how to do it effectively, we believe, and I've said it many times, that education is key. So we're going to be investing into education as well with those tax funds.
Right. Great. How do you define yourselves? Because I know you mentioned leverage trading, a leverage trading platform. You said that several times, and I've heard you say it in other AMAs. But a lot of the time is spent trying to explain, obviously, to the people listening and whoever's asking the questions, the way your staking system works and where rewards are to be found and where people can put their money in if they don't want to leverage trade and they want to play a protocol. And there appears to be a little bit, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, a little bit of gamification there. How are you defining yourselves to the investors, to anybody that's looking at you and is interested?
That's a solid question. Um, it's something which is evolving. And as we write material and as we get better, it's going to be a message that we tighten up.
Hmm.
And when we look at this from a brand perspective, we have to build a brand based it, based on being trustworthy, being transparent, having a great community, and then providing many opportunities for people to make money.
Right.
Um, for the meantime, we are, calling ourselves a leverage trading platform, but it's I have a feeling that as we grow, that brand is going to change
Okay.
because of
Interesting.
because of the way that we're building that the tokenomics around it, and having that the ability for investors to come in and just invest in the token alone and
Hmm.
benefit. So, we have to look at this more as a finance platform, or something in those manner. But we're also are cognizant of the overall, let's say, the market at this point, that um, I've read. There's one article which I read which really pointed to the fact that perpetual dexes, or leverage trading dexes, is going to be the buzzword in 2024.
Hmm.
And we see that there's sprinklings and articles and stuff really starting to come out, but we believe that's going to be what people are going to really look for in decentralized finance. So we're going to leave ourselves branded as a leverage trading platform for the time being. But the question's great, and it's something that's been in the back of my mind, is that
Hmm.
how do we brand this beyond the leverage trading perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good. That is also a good question because from my perspective, looking at this, it almost felt like it was two separate things: the leverage trading and the staking platform, and they didn't necessarily need to be put together in order to be successful or benefit one another. And that perhaps there's a way that it can be split, and therefore doesn't get too complex for anybody that wants to focus on one rather than the other, and vice versa. But branding is one thing that you guys, like you said, I like the fact that you identify it's something that you're cognizant of, and you will be dialing into as and when things arise that you feel you need to look at in terms of that brand. I think that's great. But one of the obstacles that it is going to produce, obviously, is that you're going to often be spending a lot of time explaining one over the other, and one of these, heavily information dense aspects of what you do are the tokens and how they work and how people can earn money through those tokens. I mean, I already see a ton of questions coming in from taxes, of course. But talk to me about the tokens and that setup, and how these tokens are going to work when somebody buys your AXN. How does the whole ecosystem fall into place? Where does somebody start?
Yeah, certainly. So before, I can talk about the staking in AXN, but I'm going to introduce the rest of the token for a little while. So our next token that builds out our ecosystem is the liquidity pool token, and this is called ALP. And this is not something which you trade on a swap. ALP is a token which you purchase to invest into some of our liquidity pools. And the way that it works is that you have, let's say, Ethereum, and you buy ALP with Ethereum, and that gives you a particular stake in the Ethereum liquidity pool. And we're going to have, Bitcoin, some stables out there, and as well as, if we're talking about partnering with, some particular tokens, and perhaps allow them for their users to leverage trade their token particularly as well. So it all boils down to building liquidity. Now, the benefit is that when you hold an ALP token, the price of that token is a factor of the liquidity pools. And I don't want to go past that in terms of depth at the moment, because it's what really we should take away from this is that there's a token AXN that represents the project and is the staking protocol. There's the token ALP, which is automatically staked, but that represents the liquidity pools. And then we have this concept of escrowed AXN. And escrowed AXN, it's really there. Its main purpose is to track the rewards. And the escrowed AXN is what's given out to you in various different ways. So when we go to staking, the first step is staking AXN, right? There's the first step, particularly with entering the Axiodex protocol. It's buying AXN and staking it. And you can see here with the diagram, there's 4 types of rewards which come out. It's Ethereum-based rewards, and this is our service fees. It's AXN holders get 30% of our service fees. There's multiplier points, which I'll explain in a second. There's the buy-sell tax revenue, which we've already talked about. This is a reflection for the users. And then there's escrowed AXN. And the real goal or target around here is to build out your escrowed AXN. And the multiplier points, what those do is the longer that you hold without touching your wallet, particularly, the longer you hold, the higher your multiplier points will get. So it compounds, right? And there's, if you sell a particular portion, the multiplier points get reduced proportionally to that portion. Right? And then they start building up again. So multiplier points, what they do is they really benefit and reward the holder from a long-term perspective.
And is there
So
any minimum staking period for those tokens, for that AXN token?
no, you can stake the AXN and unstake it as you wish, right?
Okay, great.
Yeah, but I'm going to get around to something,
Sure.
particularly with that question, right? But if I answer it now, it might be a little bit confusing, but I'll get there. I
Okay.
promise. Yeah. So talking about staking, the ALP token, which I've talked about, which is represents the liquidity pool, you receive 60% of the Ethereum rewards. So 60% of the service fees get paid out to you in Ethereum. And if you look at what this is modeled after, GMX, people
Hmm.
have made a considerable amount of money just off of the service fees. The numbers that they're talking about are just huge, right?
Right.
So um, there's opportunity here that if we get enough traction, that holding ALP is something that's going to be beneficial for somebody, regardless how the market operates. All you need is particularly is traction on both sides, the buying and selling, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily matter if the market's making money, as long as people are interacting and buying and selling and utilizing the solution, the service fees will be there, right?
Right.
So as I said, ALP is auto staking, and you also get escrowed AXN while while you're holding ALP.
Hmm.
So go ahead. You have a question?
I was going to circle back to the AXN. I mean, there's already, and I'm sure you're gonna get to this. There's gonna be a ton of questions that people are gonna be asking about the APRs, the APYs. There aren't any percentages that you are displaying here, um, and I'm sure that's for good reason. Now, just circling back to what I mentioned at the top of the CEE, which is a lot of these things can feel like they're designed to keep people within the ecosystem. And there are going to be some people that are building things out that will say, actually, we're not trying to keep people in the ecosystem. We're simply trying to guide people as the best way to invest to maximize their returns. So, if someone does say, well, I'm looking at the AXN token and great, I can unstake it whenever I want, but really it's designed to have me stay in to gain those multiplier points, to gain the ES-AXN that I can then further stake in order to, gain extra rewards. Would it be fair to say that what you're suggesting to investors is the best way to, for lack of a better word, play the ecosystem that you have going on here is for them to buy the AXN stake, and really they're looking to take out the ETH-based rewards while growing their ES AXN position and focusing predominantly on getting those ETH-based rewards out because that's obviously something that's fully liquid and doesn't need to be vaulted to exit the system.
Yeah. You know, if I were to say that we've designed this in a way, it's really GMX. We're a GMX fork.
Hmm.
If I were to say that the solution is designed to keep people in the system, I would agree with that. And I'm not necessarily saying it's a good or bad thing, but it's something that we're cognizant about. It's that if you remain in the system as a holder, what you're going to be able to do this here, let me just take a step back.
Hmm.
The 5% tax on buys and sells. This is something that, you know, if you were to come in, buy, see a little bit of a price increase, and then sell and say, look, I made 5-10% or whatever, um, or you decide to sell at a loss, what you're really doing is not taking advantage of the reward system that's meant to build back up, to repay you that tax and beyond,
Hmm.
right? So the one thing which we're trying to do is that because the ether-based rewards and the buy sell tax revenue are not price dependent, we're really trying to uh, encourage people to hold to the point where A, they repay the taxes, but B, start to make money and start to make some passive income. And it's our goal to first of all, what we need to do is educate the AXN holders, and have them continue to hold. But what we'd like to do is for them to progress into liquidity investing and then get into leverage trading.
Right.
So, it is a heavily um, community-based focus,
Hmm.
but uh, again, that's everyone says that. But what I mean is that we need to educate the community and keep people in place to benefit from the token overall. But if I were to say that this is built to really keep the users in the system, I would agree with that. I wouldn't shy away from it.
And that's a refreshing response to have, because not everybody is necessarily going to say, yes, we are wanting to keep you in the system, but there is a reason why we want to keep the system. And I
Yeah,
think, one of the things that we can't get away from is, as you go through further slides that you have in explanations, education with you guys is going to be absolutely paramount, just so that people can really understand what it is that you're trying to build out, what it is that you're promising, and how you believe it can be best played or best utilized in order to gain the maximum return. So, like I said, we will get onto the educational portion of all of this. But by all means, I interrupted, so please do continue and, and,
no, no,
and carry on with the explanation.
no, fair enough. Um, so I was talking about escrowed AXN,
Yes.
and when you get paid out escrowed AXN, you get um, sorry, in the other tokens, when you get paid out escrowed AXN, you have the option to compound those and stake them again. And if you stake them, you're going to receive a portion of the 30% of the Ether rewards. You're going to receive more multiplier points and more escrowed AXN. So it's kind of like super compounding, because you compound multiplier points and so forth, but you're also compounding your rewards, right?
Hmm.
Now, the purpose of escrowed AXN, it's to track the rewards. And I'm just going to quickly go through the slides, so bear with me. The three, you get rewards, you get escrowed AXN for AXN when you stake them, you get escrowed AXN within ALP, it's automatically staked, and then you can stake to compound your escrowed AXN. And that's great, but what do you do with escrowed AXN? So every once in a while, or however you determine, you take the escrowed AXN and you vault it. And this is
Hmm.
a separate uh, step than claiming, because what vaulting does, it puts the escrowed AXN in the quote unquote vault for 6 months. And over time, linearly, you're going to receive AXN, right? So
Right.
at the end of the day, that's your real benefit is that you're receiving escrowed AXN from the you're receiving AXN from the escrowed AXN that you've put into the vault.
Now, to interject for a second, you said 6 months, 182 and a half days. Has that's been reduced then from 365 days, which is on
Yes.
the documents? So you've now reduced that, and it will be 6 months rather than 12 months.
Yeah, it's the reason why we had 12 months is because that was the GMX model, but we looked at that and it just felt uncomfortable.
Right.
I can't sit here and have people say tell them, yeah, you got to hold it for a year. Even the 6 months was debated, is that should we make it smaller?
Right.
So it was really something that we debated internally quite a bit. It's because the bottom line, it's you don't have to wait 6 months for your entire total to come out. It's
Hmm.
released to you slowly over a period of time. So within 3 months, you're going to have 50% of it, right?
Right.
So we just thought that a year was something that in the crypto world people would not settle for.
And I'm glad you recognize that, because I had a bunch of questions that were going to be centered around that 365 days. And I'm sure that would have sparked some comments in the question section. So now I can only be half as mean to you when I dial into the 6 months. Even 6 months, as you recognize, is a long period of time. It's a long time to say to somebody, we want you in this system. We want you to be in there and recognize that you're going to be in it, and you can only take those rewards out over a 6-month period. Are you going to revisit that time frame? Is there an explanation that you think you can now stand behind and say 6 months is going to be the longest it will ever be, but also the shortest it will ever be? How do you move forward with that? And what is the full explanation, really?
So, it's a great question. You might have to lead me through this because I had a couple of interrupting ideas in my head as you were talking.
Sure.
It is going to be the longest period for sure. We're not going to extend it past 6 months. It's also something that once we set that particular, let's say, once we set that particular time, it becomes really complicated to step back and say, okay, let's change this now. The and the reason why is because somebody or a group of people may be in a certain period of outflow, and if we change that time, does that mean that all of the contracts that were 6 months, do they now become 3 months? And how do you do the math that ensures they are going to receive that appropriate amount? Right? There's a little bit of a balance which needs to be done there. It's not as easy as just changing the number. Right. If we wanted, we could put out a V2 really quickly and change that number. But that doesn't necessarily benefit everybody, because this is the situation that GMX is in right now. They have a V1 and a V2, and they're having trouble building liquidity for their V2. I shouldn't say trouble. It's their market. It's the market in general. They have a lot of people who are locked into V1, but and they have a way of transferring into V2, but there's people who are making lots of money on V1 and just don't want to transfer. So we're cognizant of the fact that the number that we pick is going to be there for a while. So the 6-month time frame, this is something that we're open to feedback on, and it's going to be something I'd say in the next week or two that I open up the discussions in our forums with respect to how people feel comfortable with that time frame. So we've chosen 6 months at this point, but we're certainly looking for feedback and would like people's ideas in terms of how do we do that balance. Now, at the end of the day, the reason why we're doing this is because we want to ensure that people understand the benefits of the holding. And I think that as they start using the system, they'll see that, hey, you know what? I've held on to a while, but I've made quite a bit of money in Ether, right? And I'm gaining rewards and I'm building value. So the model has worked for GMX. We're just looking at it and trying to improve it where we can. And this is one of the areas that we're looking into it, is that a year is too long. 6 months seems reasonable, but we're open to other suggestions and conversation about it.
Right. Okay. Great. And the rewards that are being paid out, I know your deck says that it's constant. How often are they being paid out? Is it a daily basis? Is it an hourly, minute by minute, second by second?
What I've tested, it seems to be minute to minute.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not hourly for sure. It even comes out in seconds, so it's near real time.
Right. Okay. Great. Near real time. Fine. Thank you. Moonsimp is saying they cannot hear either myself, yourself, or both of us. I assume the audio is good for everybody else, or not. If it is, then just let us know in the community questions, and we can carry on. Okay. I'm getting some we can hear yous. Okay, sorry. Again, I interrupted, and I'll probably keep doing that because there's so much information to get into. we're on the ESAXN token, and really that's your internal token, and that internal token allows you to track things like rewards. One of the things I know that you can do with this is you can throttle how much you're giving out in ESAXN. So before we do actually continue, let me throw this question in. Is there going to be a time frame, or do you have in mind why and when you might throttle those rewards back out? And how do we avoid a whale coming in, getting a ton of rewards that perhaps creates a bit more pressure than you anticipated on the system? Someone else comes in underneath that doesn't have a huge amount of money, and then suddenly rewards start to get throttled because the person sitting at the top, the fat cat at the top, is just kind of, really getting through a bit too much for your taste, and you need to rejig things.
So, the thought of throttling the rewards, I mean, we would like to keep it on the ratio that was set up by GMX, and the reason why is because of the um, what's the word I'm looking for? The history that's based upon there. I think they've come up with a calculation that makes sense. Now, we've set aside 40% of our tokens to be offered as rewards, and that's going to sit around for quite a while if we do this properly. One of the things we don't want to do is to throttle it up so high that it becomes um, that people are coming in just for a quick buck, right? Like that. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't necessarily say that we would do anything if there is a particular whale that wants to come in and uh, buy a whole bunch for rewards. And the reason why is that when you look at it from the perspective of holding, it's that whale should really be cognizant of the fact that they're going to be receiving so much more if they just hold, right? So I'm not really sure that there's a short-term advantage for a whale to come in and uh, game the system per se.
Okay, fine, fair answer. I can accept that.
Okay.
All right. Again, apologies for interrupting. Let's see some more.
Yeah, no problem at all. I think that's actually with respect to an overall introduction. I think that's all I have.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Now we can get into some of the kind of juicy questions that are going to be some curveballs, I hope. Some reasonable pushback that you're going to get on educating communities, and there's a lot of talk on educating communities, is that a lot of projects, I wouldn't necessarily stand by every project, but I know some would, but a lot of projects fail. Most of them fail when they're focused on saying that the community needs to be educated, because it tends to be that what they're actually trying to say is this needs to be played in a certain way for it to be sustainable. And almost each and every time that then comes with taxes, and people will say, well, those taxes are not doing anything other than just regurgitating other people's money through the system. That's going to be a very common pushback that you're going to get. It's just playing with someone else's money. There's no residual product that you're getting or value exchange other than that money. How do you plan to negate those particularly poor odds in terms of how many have failed? And what do you believe is going to be different when you say we want to educate the community against what other people might have done that have come before you?
That's a solid question. Um, there's a I'm of the age where I like The Simpsons, and I watch The Simpsons quite a bit. How is that going to answer the question? We'll get there.
Let's find out.
But yeah, so there was a particular episode where they decided, I think Homer decided that he's going to be making jeans, and he decided to sell, you know, they turned out to be counterfeit jeans, but he decided to sell jeans, and I forget which character it was, but they said, well, you think that attacking an overcrowded market is going to be beneficial.
Mhm.
And I always keep that in the back of my mind when I'm approaching something like this. It's that you're really, what you're doing is making a different pair of jeans. They're labeled differently, and um, we're approaching a market where it's almost saturated with jeans, right?
Right.
So you're right. There's a certain level of saturation. Most people say, "Oh yeah, we have to educate the community." So that was the first part of what you're asking, and the second part was with respect to taxes, where they just say, "Well, taxes are just really stuff that you're just regurgitating into the system."
Mhm.
So I'll get back to the education, but I just wanted to address that we're using taxes most importantly to uh, build liquidity. And the reason why the liquidity is important with the way that the system is built, it's because the amount that you can actually do a leverage trade is a function of how much liquidity that there is in the system. So without liquidity, you can't crank that leverage up to 50x or 50 times, right? You're only going to be able to do a smaller level. And, that's okay because most people don't do 50 times longing or shorting. And if you want to go ahead, more power to you. You have certainly a lot of courage to do that and a lot of knowledge. And it's a great way to make money. But
Mhm.
the at the end of the day, we're going to use taxes to build that liquidity. And then we thought, well, should we turn the taxes off or just have it benefit the people, right? So we decided to keep the taxes and just have it a reflection as benefit for the users,
Mhm.
right? So to get to the question with respect to education and why do we think we're different, or you know the amount of when you look at the amount of tokens that have failed because of they say, oh, this is complex and needs to be educated, and from there I look at this from the perspective of when you see our competitors. There's GMX is going to be a competitor, Mummy Finance is another one, and there's other perpetual dexes coming out there. They are successful without the level of education which we envision. So, I sit back and I said, there's enough leverage traders in the ecosystem, in the crypto ecosystem overall, that there's people who are going to be able to come into the system and use it without education. If we had to educate everybody from the start about leverage trading in general, and when I say everybody, I mean the entire population, that would be a very, very tricky play. But there are already a base amount of users in the ecosystem that understand uh, leverage trading. And we're taking it from the perspective of, look, we're going to teach you about liquidity pool investing. We're going to teach you about leverage trading. And this is how you do it on our system. It's not something which is a Axiodex specific knowledge transfer when it comes to leverage trading and or liquidity pool investing. And how we're going to do that is by bringing in experts who have used other platforms beneficially and have done leverage trading successfully to help us build out the content. Because there's one approach where, and we're going to do this, but there's one approach which is, just build videos that show how to use the platform. And I believe that's the basics, the
Mhm.
minimum we can do. But from an education perspective, what we're looking at is, okay, how do we take it steps beyond that, right? And it's really teaching people about signals, teaching people about shorting, longing, and how to leverage trade effectively. That's something which is going to be more generic and not necessarily to our particular platform.
Right.
Um, at the end of the day, it really does boil down to volume. So with the education, we have to have marketing hand in hand as well.
Thank you. I want to ask a follow-up question in a second about how you might leverage people that are good at what they do, and you're going to bring experts in, but I'm sure you'll be perhaps looking in-house for those that are doing well on the platform. I just know that there are going to be some comments, and I'm noticing one now where, someone's pushback here is currency and that governments don't need to educate currency holders. He's being a little naughty because he's taking an example that is it's a very basic example, and also, it's something that is and has been around for hundreds of years. We're not talking about something that is very, very new, has a lot of new moving parts, as if you will, and needs education because we're very much at the starting point of the crypto journey. It's an infant in the world, right?
Yeah.
um I get you can apply the same fundamentals, of course, but I am very much someone who does believe that, this space needs to educate people more. And not just because, of course, you're going to get um, people that don't know what they're necessarily doing with leverage trading. They might get wrecked. They might not necessarily utilize your platform the best way they can to maximize their returns, as you put it. But also, it starts to weed out the bad actors. The more educated people are, and the more we force people to educate and focus in on education, the more we can start to say, well, these are the people that are the good actors versus these are the people that are trying to do something nefarious. Would you say that was a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, the and I'll remain on this statement is that, well, here, let me look at this from a different perspective. I am not a leverage trading expert, and the amount of leverage trading which I have done is minimal. And the reason why is fear, right? Um, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I want to make a lot of money, but I'm scared I'm going to lose everything. And
Right.
how do I eradicate that fear? Right? That's what I really look at. It's that um, I'm sure many people are in the same way. It's that, yeah, I would love to trade on leverage, but I'm scared. So, how do I do that? How do I step into it? How do I get my toe wet, and how do I dive into the water of it as well?
Right.
Um, but when I look at it from the perspective of, give me a refresh on where you're going there with that question, or like ask it again.
Yeah, just while I give you a refresh, would you mind turning the screen share off? I think it might be stopping some people from joining the CEE, so we get capped after a certain amount. Perfect, thank you. Actually, it was really a statement rather than a question. It was just a follow on
Okay.
from the question I had asked. Is I think education is key in this space because it's brand new, and you're kind of alluding to the fact that you don't leverage trade because you don't want to lose, and part of that is probably because you don't understand it. It's fear, like you say.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No,
and
I got
yeah,
it now. That statement is absolutely right. It's that education is paramount in the system. Paramount in the space. Um, and I look at it from the perspective like this: is that when some people ask me what do I do, and I say I develop cryptocurrencies, they look at me like I have three heads. Well, what does that mean? Well, how do you make money from that? And um, there's a tremendous amount of people that have yet to leverage or use cryptocurrencies, or even start to understand what decentralized finance brings.
mm,
So when you look at it from an education perspective, um, here's another thing which uh, really brings it to light. I've quite a bit of LinkedIn connections, and I want to leverage those connections to market Axiodex. But I don't know, but I can guess that 98% of the connections in my world know very little or next to nothing about decentralized finance.
hmm
And I'm thinking, okay, if I just put a post up about Axiodex on LinkedIn, what kind of traction am I going to get? Probably next to nothing. because nobody will know what it is. So, we really have to look at our marketing from a different perspective,
Right.
where instead of saying, "Hey guys, look at Axiodex, it's this great new project. We do all these things and da 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 da." We got to look at it from the perspective of, are you interested in decentralized finance? Do you know what it is? Have you want to make a lot of money within decentralized finance? I shouldn't say a lot. Do you want to make money in decentralized finance and benefit from the growing trends?
Hmm.
And it's just in terms of that, to be successful, we're going to have to market this from a different perspective of educating people about decentralized finance and then eventually leverage trading over a large period of time. So we just have to be sure that we're taking this, from the standpoint that if we talk to somebody, the basic level of understanding we should assume is nothing.
Mm.
And the way we're going to be successful is to do everything that's required to pull in people uh, who exist in the crypto space currently. But with the long term view, it's how do we solve the problem of adopting people who don't understand about decentralized finance, don't even know what leverage trading is, haven't heard of these terms, but they want to make money like the rest of us. And it turns that kind of dovetails into the conversation we had. I think it was David at the beginning,
Hmm.
where what we spoke about was is the fact that we're still new with crypto, and it's an emerging space, and it's a space that we can really go educate quite a few people on to benefit.
Right. Yes, and I like that you're effectively saying if we start from a basis that everybody is ignorant of how this space works, it allows you to then start moving forward in the right way, educating in the right, and hopefully starts to avoid any mistakes that might have come before you because you're always wanting to make sure that you're finding the best route forward rather than assuming you know everything and then perhaps making those.
Yeah, there's one thing that we not necessarily haven't spoken about, and there's the whole function of trust, right? It's You can put together the most wonderful education system, but somebody's going to come across and say, why should I trust these people? Why should I particularly trust this group? Right? I've been in sales for a long time, and the number one piece of advice that I would give people when they're trying to sell something is uh, don't sell the product, sell yourself,
Hmm.
because people buy people. When they see that there's trusted people within the organization, or in this sense within the project, that's when they're going to feel comfortable going through the education and taking the time to invest into that. So there's but DeFi has this problem that the devs and the people involved in the project usually don't dox. They're usually not active in the particular forums, and the communication is always done through, I would say, a moderator on Discord or Telegram. So
Right.
that model in itself is counterproductive to the growth of decentralized finance. And what one thing that we're going to do over time is to introduce the people in the team in a different manner so that people can see that there's trusted individuals behind these projects, right? And to be blunt, it has to start with me as the lead.
Mm.
So
Yes.
um yeah, and over time, you don't build trust just by one statement. You don't build trust through one single marketing campaign or something. It has to be built up through time. And you know, the to me, the number one I'd say the number one indicator for success is when people who are involved with Axiodex, when they start to go to friends and family and say, you know what, you should invest with this because I trust the team. It's that type of organic growth that I believe is going to, which is that type of organic growth, which is essential for decentralized finance to be successful. It's that we need to start building that trust and putting real people behind these real projects.
Yes, I agree to an extent. I have various thoughts on doxing. I agree, though, that putting real people behind these projects and ensuring that trust is there is very important. And of course, that can only really be proven out, trust, right? It's not something
Yeah.
just you show somebody's face or you give someone the first name or you tell them about the family background or whatever it might be. It's something that needs to be proven out. And as you or rightly mention, it's something that needs to be proven out over time. Um, Speaking about trust, one of the key elements, of course, of Coinbase, and I'd like to get onto why Base. One of the key elements is that they are obviously always wanting to make sure that they are working within whatever government guidelines, rules, and regulations are in place, especially within this particular realm that we're in, DeFi. Was it your only go-to when you were considering where to build? How much of a factor was that in relation to this? Because obviously you're mentioning trust is so important.
Yeah, it's a great question. There's reasons why I trust Coinbase from a particular point of view. Um, so but let me take a step back on the major reason why we chose Base.
Hmm.
It is really for a competitive advantage because um, when you look at the complexity of the contracts for even adding liquidity or the complexity of the contracts to provide liquidity-based leverage trading, these are the type of things which end up are gas heavy, so they cost a lot of gas. And if you can remember in the times when Ethereum gas was just hugely expensive, um, if we put these complex contracts onto the Ethereum blockchain, it wouldn't work because the gas fees alone would kill any type of gain that people are used to when it's terms of leverage trading.
Right.
So yeah, and it's unless you're a huge player where you're leverage trading hundreds of thousands of dollars. What I know about leverage trading is most people try leverage trading when they start out with like $50 or $100 or even smaller amounts. You can take $10 and leverage trade it 50x and you know go ahead and be a winner with that. But
Hmm.
if you're looking at paying $150 worth of gas fees, it suddenly becomes ridiculous. And leverage trading on a centralized exchange would be a better choice. So we first of all looked at it that it has to be a low gas blockchain which we use. And there's a few options. Avalanche, Arbitrum, and Base are all level 2 Ethereum uh, chains. And we look at it from the perspective of where can we launch where there is no competitor currently. So what the major influence on choosing the base chain is that there's an opportunity for us to be the first perpetual DEX on the base chain, and because it's fairly new, there's an opportunity for us to be one of the biggest projects on the base chain, and we realize that that's time dependent as well. So
Not just time dependent. How much will you leverage Coinbase's extensive user base? It's a notable advantage to you. They obviously like to showcase and put their partners on their platforms pedestals. They like to say these are the people that we're working with. I guess that's a massive advantage, and I suppose you must have something in mind and a plan that you're setting forward that also leverages that side of what Coinbase is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. If we can take the Coinbase user base and start to educate them on why the DEX leverage trading is better, and have them move over, that's um, a huge user base that would be so beneficial to capitalize on top of. Um,
Mhm.
you know, one of the other reasons why we choose base is because of the way that Coinbase approaches the regulatory and compliance across the world. That I'm going to pick on Binance for a second, but
Please do.
uh, yeah. So Binance, when it comes down to a regulatory agency starting to put the pressure on Binance, they usually just shut down and exit. So, or they limit the functionality which is available on the platform just so they can meet the basic regulatory compliance of a particular country. But Coinbase, on the other hand, seems to fight and bring their lawyers out, bring out the arguments, and really push the agencies like the SEC in the U.S. that you know they're not afraid of the fight. And having supporting Coinbase in that fight is something which I think is really important from a decentralized finance perspective. And I really like the way that Coinbase is approaching this, is that they're saying the same things which we're agreeing on. It's that, yeah, education is important. Security is important, privacy is important, regulation and compliance is important. But at the end of the day, this needs to step up into something that the everybody can use, and it needs to open up into a world where it's not only the have-beens or the people that have. It's not only them that can access the higher value uh, investment protocols or investment
Mhm.
verticals. Investment vehicles is the term that I'm looking for. It's not only the rich that can access the uh, higher return investment vehicles. It's just the everyday regular people like you and me that can access this type of stuff. So I really think that Coinbase is leading the charge and is making a difference in decentralized finance by fighting the regulatory agencies and fighting the necessary compliance, rather than when I look at Binance, they just seem to shy away and look at profit.
Right. Now, there are going to be people out there that say, but I'm in it for profit. And are you not slightly concerned that Coinbase picks the wrong fight and you accidentally get caught up in the crosshairs as a result?
Good question. Um, let's say Binance, something happens to them from their trading platform. Now it's they have a centralized exchange plus the blockchain, their base blockchain. Um, I can envision where the Coinbase centralized exchange starts to um, be modified or changed or impacted by the base chain.
Hmm.
And what I'm saying by that is, you know, there's going to be a future where they're going to be leveraging the base chain even more than they do for their centralized exchange offerings. So there is that kind of um, the term that they use is a Chinese wall between the two. So from a regulatory perspective, I don't think there's actually too much fear with respect to um, Coinbase being um, shut down in a particular country or a particular region, or having compliance issues with their particular platform, that most likely will not impact the base chain, just because
Right.
of the way that the regulation and the way that the laws are provided. And you know I've had extensive conversations with this while getting into crypto, so I can understand. At the end of the day, my mom always asks, "Is what you're doing legal?" And I said, and it's of course it is, right? But it's um, I think we're in a world of change with crypto.
Right.
And like I said, it's just a small number of people utilizing it in reality. And I'm looking forward to the days of growth into the future. And I believe it's there because I've seen it before. I'm old enough to remember the times of the internet. And there was so much pushback in, I'd say, the mid 90s. And this is when I was working as a software developer. So it gives you kind of gives away my age, but I was young at that point. um, the uh, the internet, there's a lot of people who are saying it was a fad. You don't need it. It's only for banks, um, or it's only for really big organizations. And the whole idea of having an email address for yourself was just bizarre. And I can remember as a young computer science student having an email address and not being, what do I do with it? Right?
Hmm.
I can send email to my classmates, and that's about it. Because not everybody had an email address at that time. It was rare for someone to have a personal email address. So I look at it that this is really something which is decentralized finance is something that is uh, congruent to the internet boom, and we are still so early, and we still have so much growth ahead of us, that I believe that once the organizations like Coinbase start pushing the agenda, it's just going to help overall. It's going to help everybody.
Right. Great. Well, I mean, very reasonable pushback and great explanation as to why base. One of the key features that you guys have going on is the security element, and with that comes your mixer, and with that comes what you believe is really important, which is financial privacy, or enhancing the fungibility of cryptocurrency, your own particular cryptocurrency holding. Talk to me about the mixer, particularly the pros and cons. Obviously I want to hear about the pros, but let's go with the cons first so we can finish this section on a positive.
Yeah,
Um,
certainly.
do you worry about the cons? Do you worry about how mixes are perceived? If someone somewhere decides to blacklist a particular mixer, that can have a knock-on effect to people that are using it, to any wallet that might have interacted with it. What are your thoughts on that?
So, I mean, there's certainly pros and cons about using a mixer. And at the end of the day, it's really a simple function of what's happening within the mixer to achieve that privacy and security. Um, and I look at from the perspective of what's the particular size of your mixer, first of all, and how often it's being used. When you look at something like Tornado Cash, which was in the US. It was registered in the US, and it was used extensively. So Tornado Cash was eventually shut down by the SEC
Hmm.
because of they said, oh, everybody's just using it for money laundering, right? So if you start to do um, an explorative search of mixers, there are a ton of mixers which are coming online now. And it seems that what's happening is that every token which is coming out from the perspective of, hey, let's build this particular utility, they're putting a mixer beside it because of the simplicity. It's a very easy thing to do.
Hmm.
um, but it's something that is going to provide a service to the particular individuals that are trusting a particular, let's call it a token ecosystem. So if you trust Axiodex, you're going to use our mixer as opposed to using somebody else's mixer, because you're starting to build that trust and so forth. Now, at the end of the day, the mixer doesn't concern me, because when you look at the size that someone would have to be from a mixer volume perspective, that it brings attention to either legal authorities, or it brings attention to the point where you have to shut it down. And I don't see that happening. Um, Axiodex would be at such a huge place if that mixer had enough volume that it would be a concern to me. So I would say I would love to have that problem, because it means we're already tremendously successful if we're getting the type of volume on a mixer which draws attention.
Right.
And you know, it's just in my nature that I would say, great, let's afford the lawyers now, right? Because at that point, we'd be successful enough that we can afford the lawyers. And, I already know which lawyer I'm going to use
Uh-huh.
for if we get into any particular arguments or something like that. But if we were approached because of our mixer, I would love to get into that argument, and I would love to take on that challenge.
That's an interesting statement because you're very mild mannered when you speak, but you're obviously um, illustrating and telegraphing that you're not afraid of the fight. You appreciate the fact that Coinbase is up for the fight, and that's one of the a core reason for choosing them, among others, of course. And when it comes to something like a mixer, it's a case of, well, if we need to fight it and we're at a stage where we can and we can afford it, let's go. Let's jump into the ring and duke it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. There's a referral system. I've been pinged about 100 times about it, so let's get into that. Can you talk a little bit about what the referral system is and how that benefits people?
It's about the referral system. And the reason why is because you really look at it from the perspective of referrals is a great way to grow,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, at the end of the day, we actually we've decided to go down to a referral system which benefits traders and the referral people, the people providing the refer. So what that means is that we're going to be giving discounts on the trades because there's service fees which are there. Now, the service fees is something that from a leverage trading perspective, people pay a lot of attention to. Leverage traders care about really two things: speed and the service fees. So we have a three-tiered referral system, which offers, first of all, at tier one, which is the basic, you're going to have 5% discount for the traders and a 5% rebate for the referral, for the person that's doing the refer. It's the correct term is referrers, but it sounds funny when I say it. So tier two is a 10% discount for the traders and a 10% rebate for the referrer. So those rebates are provided in Ether, and it's something that's going to benefit the referrer as well, quite extensively. But
Right.
the bottom line is that what we're doing by having the referrals solely on the leverage trading platform is we're trying our best to incentivize the behavior of, hey, you know what, we really should be leverage trading, and we're looking for more leverage traders, because with a high amount of leverage traders, that's how we increase the service fees, and that's how somehow the holders are going to benefit the most. So, but then we said, okay, but there's a whole bunch of other ways to do referrals, right? That's going to,
Right.
benefit others. And nothing is stopping us from having competitions that are like an invite competition on Discord or an invite competition on Telegram. So we're still going to do those. We're still going to do campaigns which were like, hey, you know what? We really want to increase the number of holders. So therefore, for the next little while, you'll get paid an X amount of AXN for every person that you refer and signs up and holds for a week or something like that. Right.
Right. Okay.
So,
And that's
so
going to be so it's going to be something that you're also going to be prepared to build out in the future and use to your advantage as and when you need to bring more people in, but also to reward people for putting in that extra work, given that you're so community based.
yeah,
Of the
exactly. Yeah,
right.
and I just I didn't want to make a referral program which was concrete at this time, because we got to be responsive to what the market is asking for and what the people are asking for, and starting out with the base of you know, incentivizing the leverage trading and keeping that referral system live forever is something that we saw as a good approach, because it gives us the flexibility to offer many other programs in the future, but still drives home and incentivize the behavior that we're looking for.
Great. Talking about ease of use and where you can use it, will it be mobile friendly? People are going to want to know whether or not they can customize it. My question is slightly deeper than that as well. So it's kind of three questions in one. Is how intuitive is this platform going to be to really guide people towards the best way of getting into what it is that you're doing, be it into the liquidity pools, be it where how you stake and where you then take rewards, if it's worth maybe holding on to tokens rather than vaulting them to get them out. Um, and then on the leverage trading side, you know, are there going to be guidelines? Because education, as we've already said at the top of this, is really key to what you guys want to build out. Are there going to be guides, things in place that really help people, kind of on an interface level, not make some of the main mistakes that people make when they're new to this?
So I'll start with the second part of the question first. From the leverage trading, is there going to be that guidance? And that's a part of the overall question of, is the UI really intuitive, and what are
Mm.
we doing to make sure that happens? Um, Overall, I'm a big fan of CI, or what's known as continuative integration. So the point of it is that you're constantly improving the product as we move along. And I'm thankful that the front ends are not fixed contracts like you'd have to apply on the blockchain. So there's lots of opportunity to improve and adjust the user interface moving into the future. So what we're planning on launching is kind of um, our base approach to having an intuitive UI, and it's going to improve over time. So I will say that from a leverage trading perspective, and having forked GMX, they do a pretty good job of guiding you appropriately through the steps of being like, are you sure you want to do this? Right? This is high amount of leverage and so on and so forth. Um, and so from a leverage trading perspective, we believe that the system is good enough to launch. Is it perfect? No. Will we get there? We hope so. But it's really the continued improvement of that user interface, which is going to be something which is integral to our success as well. Now, um, we could sit as our team of 10 and sit here and try to design a more intuitive UI, but we're faced with some challenges in the fact that most of us are really we sit in our, I mean, I don't, but I'm just joking around when I say this. We sit in our parents' basement and play with computers and technology all day.
Right.
So
You are in the basement. It's just that you're the parent.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that we see this from a different lens, right? We see this from different eyes, and the only way that we can really make sure that we're building an intuitive interface is through user feedback. Um, and so it's there's another point that I believe for decentralized finance to be successful, you have to listen. You have to listen to your end users, and you
Right.
have to consider, you know what? That may seem like a dumb question, but it's probably coming from the right place, right? Because if it's a dumb question, then it's obviously not an intuitive interface.
Mm.
So
Yes.
it's really having um, the ability to listen and to consider what people are talking about. I will say, um, you know, there was a lot of talk, a lot of fun banter before this particular AMA that
Hmm.
I'm going to be put on the hot seat because you have a really great reputation for asking tough questions,
Right. Thank you.
right? So with that said, I'll be, blunt in saying that our user interface at this time, when I played for it and tested it, it's not perfect.
Right.
It's not something which I'd say, God, that's fucking wonderful. Excuse my French, but it's
No,
you
by all
know
means.
it's yeah, it's a wonderful solution. I didn't get that feeling, but what I did get the feeling of is that yeah, I figured this out really quickly, right?
Mm.
So it's easy to use, but it needs improvement, and it's something that we're cognizant about. Um, and it really boils down to how much effort do we want to put at redesigning an application, which is an application that has been redesigned a couple times already by GMX and its competitors,
Right.
right? So we're already leveraging things which have been worked through a couple times. And we kind of took the position of, first of all, we're too techy, too geeky to be able to say what's an intuitive interface, that we
Hmm.
really need somebody brand new coming into it to tell us where it needs improvements. And then, you know, the second point about that is that we need to listen to our users, and we need to be cognizant of the fact that we're going to be investing in ongoing improvements with the user interface. It's never going to be something which we say it's done, right? So
Right.
we look at it from the perspective is that it's good for launch, right?
Yes, and I'm going to pick up on something you just said, and
And
everybody listening should dial into that a little bit. That saying that you're going to need somebody from the outside to come in and take a look at it, because of course when you're building something yourselves, you're entrenched in it, you see it every day, and you might not necessarily pick up on things that they will. I think that's a very healthy attitude to have for any business, especially one that is like this, that you have to bring people in almost constantly to evaluate what you're doing, who are not and haven't been working on this from the offset. They're not emotionally attached. They're going to see it with a different set of eyes. They're going to be looking for something that you're not looking for. And sometimes, most importantly, they haven't been privy to any of the conversations that have gone before that. So they're not going to be swayed by perhaps personalities, emotional ties to certain things, etc.
yeah, and I think I might have mentioned this a little bit earlier, but if you go to axiodex.com, there's a little Easter egg that I'll point out is that if you click on the app button, although we haven't been launched yet, our DApp is live on a test net of the base chain.
Yeah.
So you can go in there and start to see what we're doing, and browse around on it. Um, and if somebody's really interested, contact me and I'll give you some ether on that test net so you can play around with it and give us some feedback. Right?
Right.
We are going to be opening testing to a group of what we call the Axiodex originators, which is about 50 people,
Hmm.
um, and we're opening up testing to them first, and then we'll open it up to a broader audience. But the bottom line is that we're not hiding our DApp, and if you go to our website, you can see it right away and play with it as we're making progress.
Yeah, I've also posted it into the community question. So anybody that wants to take a look now, they can take a look at the
Yeah.
website, at the DApp, and your Discord link is in there. Patrick, I'm aware that I've had you now for an hour and a half. So, I'll start to wind it down a little bit. I've only got a couple more questions. One of those is going to be if you've got some alpha to share with us. And we'll then circle back just to where people can really get started with you guys. Um, just to let everybody know, we're going to be doing a giveaway as we normally do. At least one of the amounts that we're going to be giving away is going to be tied to the best questions. So if you do have any last minute questions, throw them in. And of course, everybody has to jump into the Axiodex Discord in order to be eligible to win. So if you're not already in there, I recommend you do that now. Um, we obviously have discussed a whole range of things. Marketing has been one of them. I'm really interested to see what you guys do with your market, especially when it comes to the educational portion of it, because I think it's key. And we talked about branding a little bit, and I'm really curious to see where you guys go with the branding, because at the moment, like you say, the interface isn't necessarily perfect. the marketing feels like it's still being worked out. And there are things that for my taste it might be missing, for others they might enjoy it. You've mentioned GMX several times over, and again, for anybody listening, I think it's worth taking note of the fact that GMX at the minute, and this is a fork of it, is sitting at a total value locked of about $450 million. And I think the last 24-hour volume was around 7.84 million. So that's no joke. They're performing incredibly well. And the fact that you guys are basing what you're doing on them, and you're forking from them, and you're looking at them for guidance, and you're looking at them as a kind of way of obviously not completely copying. You want to improve, and one of the things you identified is the community aspect of improvement. But the fact that you're looking at them and following in their footsteps, I think, is a good move, especially with the way they're performing.
Yeah, and somebody might say, why do we come out and admit that we're a GMX fork, right? Like it's we're almost sitting here and talking about our competitors, right?
Mm.
So, but I look at it from the impact that right now there's plenty of opportunity for multiple leverage trading platforms to exist. This is
Right.
it is a tremendously growing area, and our approach is just one approach that someone can take to building these types of solutions. Somebody on my team forwarded me an article where another organization has raised $4 million from private investors and venture capitalists to essentially build the exact same thing which we're building.
Right.
So, to me, to somebody else that might say, "Oh no," but to me, that's a sign that we're doing the right thing. It's because there's somebody else that's doing it, and there was enough venture capital interest that they gave this organization $4 million to do it. Now, I have worked extensively in software development, and I have been involved with venture capitals and raising of funds and guiding companies, necessarily to success, and seeing the challenges which come up. And I look at it from this aspect is that if somebody goes out to a venture capital organization and raises $4 million to build something which can be built with a grassroots perspective, they are really handcuffing their ability for growth and their ability to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because when you have venture capital investment, there's so much pressure to perform according to how the venture capitalists want you to perform. So
Right.
you're married to that money. So if the group says, you know what, we should do this. We should focus on marketing. Who cares about education? I don't know why they'd say that, but let's say that's the approach they take. You're handcuffed because the venture capitalists want a particular result, and they want it at a particular time. They necessarily don't, if you come with the excuse, well, the market's soft, so we're not growing, but we're trying our best, we're doing all of the right things, they don't care. And at the end of the day, the pressure of the venture capital organization will, as far as I see, will kill your efforts in decentralized finance because of the flexibility and the agility which you need to be successful in decentralized finance in the crypto space is, it's tremendous. It's like I think Smiley said it really well, is that in crypto we live by dog years. So every day is 7 days
Right.
because you can do so much. And the venture capitalists, they don't care about that, right? What they care about is their money. But
Right.
what I'm really getting to is that I see that there's a lot of potential competition building, and that just makes me feel good that we're going in the right direction.
Yes. And one of the bases of the origins of Axiodex and why you decided to build this was, I believe, that you stumbled on an article that spoke on that very topic, that leverage trading, especially in a decentralized manner, is going to be one of the biggest things in the next bull run. One of the
Yeah.
things that your Discord is missing that I wish it had, and I hope you guys rectify it, is that article should be front and center. You should be
I,
hanging it right above the door so that everybody can read it.
I was trying to find it earlier today for that reason. You're
Right.
absolutely right, sir. Um, I'm going to find that article and make sure that everybody can read it because um, if I could point you to that article right now, you would all be convinced that this is the right way to go.
Right. Yeah. And I just think it's such a great story, and as and when and if and whatever, however else you want to say it, this succeeds and this takes off. It's one of those things that I'm sure people are going to want to look back on and say, aha, that's where it started, and it's a good way of really starting that education process of showing people, well, this is why we started it, and when we're so far along now that we're going to be releasing this in a few weeks, here we
Yeah.
are. I'd love to read that article myself, and I really do hope you're able to find it. Um, is there, before I ask you about the alpha and I threaten you with another 3 more hours of questions if you don't give it to me, is there anything I haven't covered that you wish I had?
I would just like to say that um, we haven't launched yet, and we're planning on launching in about 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Uh, we all know the market's soft. We all know that it's probably not the best time to launch. Um, but we may delay it a little bit. However, as soon as we have a MVP, we're going to a minimal viable product. We're going to launch, and we see this as a factor that in the life cycle of a token, the launch is an extremely small part of it. And in the crypto world, we seem to be really focused on let's get a good launch, let's get a good launch, right? And you want that 100x on launch. But what boils down to it, as much as we're working hard for the launch, we have to work twice as hard after launch. So, we're going to be launching in 3 weeks. And the probably the best way and the cheapest way to buy Axiodex is to join our pre-sale. That if you join our Axiodex Discord and ask Smiley about the details of the pre-sale, she'll help you out. I believe it's posted all over the Discord, and you can also do this in the Telegram as well, and it's on our Twitter. So the things that I'd like to leave you with is that the best price to buy Axiodex is going to be through our pre-sale, and where we plan to launch in about 3 weeks.
Great. Okay. I think I pretty much covered everything. The only things we perhaps didn't touch on was a private and pre-sale. I know you guys went through both of those, and inevitably people are going to raise questions as to whether or not that creates some form of sell pressure from the offset. I know they're locked for a week. I recommend people jump into your Discord, ask those questions there. There's a reason I didn't cover it during this conversation. I just didn't necessarily think it would fit in the flow, and it's one of those things that people tend to give the same answer to, and there's going to be ways in which try to get around it. But at times, you've already mentioned, you do need to raise money. Liquidity needs to be there, and I think it's fairly straightforward as to why you did that,
Yeah.
frankly. But if anybody has any further questions on that, for sure, jump into any questions. Okay, so my last 4 questions. The first one is going to be, if there is any weakness in what it is that you're doing, Axiodex has a hole that you need to plug. What have you identified it as? And what are you currently doing to ensure that that is plugged as much as possible?
So my biggest worry is attracting the leverage traders, and it's something that I see as not necessarily a weakness, but it's our biggest challenge because you can go to GMX and essentially do the exact same thing. So
Hmm.
why would somebody come over and use our platform, right? I could talk for days about why particularly, but I'm going to answer your question, directly. It's that my biggest fear, or I think the biggest shortcoming, is the ability to attract the leverage traders.
Okay.
Um, so from that aspect, I think we talked about it quite a bit. It's about education. It's about bringing the community through the process and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, there was another weakness I was thinking about. There's some complexity with the token design that I think will take people a little while to get over. And what I'm concerned about is that um, how can we assure the stickiness then when somebody first hears about Axiodex that they remain interested? Because the tokenomics can be considered complex for the first time crypto user, how do we communicate effectively enough to ensure that people don't lose interest when they hear about Axiodex because of the complexity? And how can we make it simple for people to understand? So, those are my two biggest fears with respect to Axiodex, because I believe that we have a very solid foundation. The code works. Our developers are solid. There is actual team of 10 people behind this project overall. We have quite a bit of influencers or KOLs, whatever the term that you want to have. We have those people waiting for us to launch, right? So we believe that we're doing all of the right things within the crypto sphere. And we believe that we have the right approach from the perspective of bringing in non-crypto people, and we believe we have the right approach with respect to educating people to eventually become leverage traders. But there's always the what if in the background.
Right. May I make a suggestion? In
Sure.
terms of the tokenomics and how it's perceived, it did feel, it was very information dense, but in a way that it wasn't a lot of writing per se. There was just a lot of moving parts. When I first looked at it, it confused me. It did, and I found it a
Mhm.
bit clunky to get through. And it took me a couple of AMA listens and then coming back to the information deck that you have to really dial into it. And then when I started to kind of look at it, with those eyes of having listened to you, the audio from you talking it through, narrating it, and then me reading it, it suddenly became very transparent as to how it works. And actually, it's not that complex once you really get in. Um,
Right.
you guys definitely need an audio run through, a video of some kind, perhaps on YouTube, or just the audio itself that specifically dials into tokenomics and how this thing works. Um, but what they say is if you want to really learn how something works, teach it. I would recommend you get your community to, maybe you do this via a competition or you just ask people to chime in, jump in. But I would ask them to teach you guys how the tokenomics work, because someone somewhere within your community is going to have a very good, simple explanation. And I think those explanations are often the best when it comes to explaining it to someone else who's going to come along and read the
Yeah,
documentation.
that's a really good suggestion. Is to get that community buy-in. Uh, we do plan on having a YouTube channel with extensive videos to help out with the education and explaining the tokenomics. Is something that is being planned. We haven't started yet. There's just a lot of things to do, but I think
Good.
that yeah, it's not that I think that it's I know that what we're going to be doing is working up to launching, and then starting to produce those videos because we really need the platform to be live and active for us to do it. And I look at it from this perspective: is that I'm not going to say, "Oh, here we're here to teach you about the tokenomics of Axiodex." It's really what we need videos on is how to make money with Axiodex,
Hmm.
right? So,
Right.
uh, yeah, great suggestion. It's for the and to get the community buy-in, and absolutely that is something we're going to do.
So, Alpha, this is what a lot of people listen to and hang out for to the end for these things. Is there some alpha that you can drop besides the little Easter egg on the website? Are there some things that you're cooking that you can talk about that will get people extra excited?
We're talking about partnerships, right?
Okay.
And we're discussing with a couple of partners. There are quite a few bots on Discord and Telegram for um, investing, for exchanging, and for trading. And there's kind of this bot push right now. And the what we're talking to a couple partners about is um, necessarily having them writing the bots so they can do Telegram-based trading, Telegram-based leverage trading, or Discord-based leverage trading. I don't know how popular they're going to be, but that's something that we're aiming towards. The real alpha, and it depends, how much you think this is alpha. We have a strategic partnership with another token called Flashbot, and the strategic partnership is more about the education with respect to DeFi, and just in general a marketing partnership, because Flashbot and our token, our project, doesn't necessarily have any technical partnering opportunities, but the people who started Flashbot are friends with the people who started Axiodex. We have a very good working relationship, and that usually ends up in the best partners. So, the alpha word I'd say is that I really love what Flashbot's doing. They are putting essentially what they do is you can build and launch a contract all through Telegram just by using a Telegram bot. And it's very effective and very, very well thought out. And the team keeps pushing. It's a project which I believe is going to survive all the way up to the bull run. Like I don't know if many others will, but I know that I'm confident that Flashbot has the team to keep it alive and to make it happen. So I would say the alpha is our strategic partnership with Flashbot.
Great. Thank you. And I know that you've mentioned in a previous AMA that bot trading is something that you're looking at, and I know that there are some partners that are not yet on base, and you're keeping a close eye on them for when they do get onto base.
Yes.
Just as an aside question, will you be positioning yourself to help them get onto base so that you really cement that partnership and make Axiodex that valuable to them that they don't want to work with anyone else?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the plan.
Right. Okay, last question. There's going to be a point that you're probably most looking forward to. People give me various answers on this. Do you know what that point is? Do you have a milestone, regardless of how insignificant or small it might seem, but something that is personal to you that you're looking forward to reaching? And what is it, and how are you going to celebrate it?
That's a really good question. Fighting the battles to get everything done and launched, I haven't thought about that. I always dream that I can be involved with a token that is 2 points. That now it's 3 because I got a funny message. I would love to be able to do a large giveaway, something like $50,000 in cash, or a Tesla, or something of that manner, to be able to build a campaign which is just very compelling, right? So I do believe that we're going to do something big in the future around that. But more importantly, we haven't spoken about this internally much. It's something that we've set aside for a discussion another day, is that we're really looking forward to building a foundation. And what that means is we're going to be looking at charitable organizations in order to dovetail some of our profit towards charitable organizations.
Okay.
So I'm a big proponent in terms of giving back. There is a quote which somebody caught me saying, which I'll repeat. And I quote: "As you get older, if you're lucky, you realize what's most important in the world. You're never rich enough with money. You are only rich when you can make lives better for other people." So that's the kind of moment that I'm looking for. When we're making lives for better people, that's where it's really important. The projects which I've been involved in the past, um, you just I'm always shocked at the amount of people that are in decentralized finance or in the crypto space, and to them, $100 is huge,
Right.
right? And you forget the globalization within cryptocurrencies, and if we start to, as a whole, start to help people as much as possible, I think that's something which is going to be of tremendous value for decentralized finance, and it's something that's really going to help it grow. So we are considering that, and I think a measure of our success is going to be how many people can we help in the future.
Okay. Great. And I guess once that foundation is up and you've reached that point, it will be one of those celebratory moments that you can kind of give yourself a moment, sit back, enjoy a drink, and just say, right, this is where I wanted to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we have time to focus on the foundation, that means that everything else is running well, right?
Great. Yes. And yeah, that's a very good way of looking at it. Patrick, it's been fantastic. Thank you very much. It's been a fascinating conversation. It's been just over 2 hours, so I will finally let you go. I'm gonna put the Discord link in the community questions one last time. I can see in the comments section, so definitely have a look through the community questions section that there are some people making some suggestions about the taxes. There were some people throwing some ideas at you. One of them is a team lead at another project. So there's eyeballs on, and people are certainly looking in your direction, which is, as you said already, when you saw that somebody was trying to build exactly what you are, that's only ever a good thing. And being noticed by people means you're on the right track. I also know that there are a couple of content creators sitting in here, certainly few that like to also help people. They're all about giving back in a positive manner. So I'm sure they'll jump into the Discord and we'll be in touch. Um, from my point of view, it's been a great conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see how you guys get this further and really start dialing into some of that branding and wording and seeing how this can really grow.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been an excellent AMA. You really do a fantastic job. The amount of research you put into this and the in-depth questions that you provide really give us a an opportunity to really shine and talk about what we're all about, from the negatives and the positives. So I really appreciate the time. I really appreciate your questions, but most importantly, I appreciate the audience. I've been noticing that there's over 100 more, like there's 146 right now,
Yes.
people who are attending, and they're sticking around. So, to all of you, thank you very much. I hope that this has been beneficial for you, and that we're, all looking forward to you joining our communities, and being, active and effective members. So, Matt Hatter, thank you very much for a great AMA.
Thank you. Very kind words. Thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to having you back in very soon for a catch up.
All right, all the best.
Take care.